Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Harmony 365 Sneak Preview. Before we get started, here are a few important messages. During the webinar, you are welcome to submit questions via the chat window on your screen. We will try to answer the questions at the end of today's webinar. If we don't answer your question, don't worry, a Harmony person will answer you via email. For all those who are wondering, we will make a recording of this webcast available to you within a couple of days. You will get a link via email to the recorded webinar. I would like to introduce today's speaker, David Lavender, Harmony Chief Product Officer. David is an experienced marketing and product executive, serving in senior roles for a host of enterprise software, mobile security, and networking companies. David is also an award-winning technology and business writer and public speaker, including many years as a contributor to Fast Company, CMS Wire, and other leading press outlets. David is an international scholar for the Society for the History of Technology. Before we get started, we'd like to ask you a question. What are your company's plans for work in 2021? Please select one. 100% work from home, mostly work from home with some office time, mostly back to the office with some remote work, or 100% back to the office. One second, I see that you are still answering. Okay, let's see the results.
Okay,
David.
Okay, thank you. Let me just make the screen a bit bigger so I can see the numbers here. All right. So mostly working from home is the biggest response, 68%. Back to the office with some work and working from home. We have 3% who said they're going back to the office. So pretty much, I think this goes along with what the market numbers have shown from other surveys. Microsoft had a survey that they released a few weeks ago that talked about 80% of managers were talking about a more flexible work time. Forbes had an article that mentioned similar numbers about people working from home. And I think this is really a good segue to where we get started. And that is talking about the post-pandemic digital workplace. You know, regardless of where we are in the different stages of vaccination in different countries, a lot of discussion has already started taking place about what work will look like post-pandemic. And as we've all been sheltering from home for the last year, and things have changed in the last year, a lot of investment has gone into infrastructure to make people productive from home. Infrastructure, both including hardware and software and applications and work, different types of arrangements, delivering home deliveries for a lot of things that people need to be able to work at home. And that investment is not just going to go down the tubes as we get back to work post-pandemic. There's been a lot of talk about how we've learned to be productive while working from remote locations, and the reliance on being back in the office maybe isn't as strong as it once was. A lot of articles have appeared. I just clipped this one that appeared the other day in the Wall Street Journal called From Remote Work to Hybrid Work, the tech you'll need to link home and office. It talks mostly about the hardware, a little bit about the software that you need to connect and stay connected. But there's a lot of work. One of the things that they do mention is a challenge that people are going to have is that even if people claim or do want to stay home and do work from either home or perhaps regional satellite offices or corporate offices, how do you get people into the room at the same time? One of the big challenges is if people are working from home and everybody's working from home a different day, you don't really gain the benefits of returning to the corporate workplace. And this is one of the big things that the questions that come up about how do you keep people productive? How do you keep people efficient in working and ability to connect with people, whether they're working shoulder to shoulder in the office or whether they're working remote or working in changing environments, one day in one mode and another day, next day in a different mode. And these are really the three I think, three main challenges, or unique challenges that we have moving to the post-pandemic workplace. People will continue to be virtual islands, whether they're working from regional offices or at home, or if they happen to be at the office and other people are at home. So a couple of things that are critical from a business perspective. One is staying connected to the business. Things are happening. Clients are ordering equipment or services or software products. Uh, People are uh, having interactions with outside people. New projects are popping up as we work on new things going on in the company. So staying connected to the business and understanding what's happening is absolutely crucial, and doing it in a productive manner. So one of the things about being productive is people are working on different things in different locations. How do you make it so that you're aware of what's happening, you can find information, you can get what you need, so that you don't end up working on things that other people might be working on, or working on old versions of things that people might be working on. And that really leads to the third one, which is continuing to be self-sufficient. So when you were working at home, you were literally on an island by yourself. As we move back to a more integrated environment, remaining self-sufficient remains key, and being able to work without being able to necessarily poke your head into the next office and ask somebody how you do something, or where that information is, or what's happening with a particular account. But having to be able to do that remotely when people may or may not be on at the same time. So how do you do that? And these remain challenges in the post-pandemic workplace, although they do change a little bit from what it was like when it was strictly working from home. So really, if we can boil down the two, if we take those business challenges of staying connected to the business, being self-sufficient, and being independent, really what it boils down to, really, in the world of information, is finding and discovering important content and email and documents. And of course, we're all about the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and working within the ecosystem of SharePoint and Teams and Outlook and all the other great things that Microsoft 365 brings to the table. So being able to find information across apps in Microsoft 365, one of the great things that's happened over the last year is that Teams has really become a major product, and a lot of information that used to be stored in other locations is now being stored there. And on the other hand, it's kind of detrimental in that now information is spread across yet one more app. Was that file in SharePoint? Was that file in Teams? Was it something that someone sent me as an email? Being able to find, and not only find, but discover important content quickly when you're working by yourself or without the help of your team, co-located team, this is really something that's critical to be able to be successful in this new hybrid work model. And the second part is, as Teams becomes more and more important, getting help from colleagues, which is what Teams is a lot about. A lot of people are using it for meetings, starting to be used for some of the other features like chat, and also file sharing. But when you're working with clients, getting help from colleagues is not straightforward, because part of that conversation resides in Outlook. You're getting emails from clients, you're discussing things internally. Reaching out to get help from people about clients becomes a tricky task as you juggle and toggle between different Microsoft 365 apps. And that's really what we like to talk about today. Is we're introducing Harmony 365. This is a brand new product that we've been in the works for a while, that we've been working on diligently during these last months to address these needs that people have, not only for remote working, but for hybrid working, as people start to use more of these Microsoft 365 apps, SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, Outlook. Information gets dispersed, and what Harmony has always been about is about making the right thing the easy thing, making the user experience for using Microsoft collaboration tools very simple for people. And what we've introduced in this new release, which we're just announcing today, it'll be available in May, but we're making it available for early access for those folks who are interested, and we'll have a sign up at the end of this webinar, is really about a cross-app version of Harmony. So not only we've always focused on on SharePoint and making it easy to get information into SharePoint, capturing and classifying information, being able to find information in SharePoint. And now we've extended that to all the Microsoft 365 content repositories to make that one smooth, simple, coherent interface where people can get all the information in the sidebar of Outlook where they're spending a lot of their work time. And this is exactly what I would like to share with you today. So I have a bunch of slides, but best thing is always to show this live, and that's what I'd like to do here. So I'm going to switch over to my Outlook window. And for those of you, you can see my Outlook window. This looks very familiar, I'm sure, to everybody who spends a great deal of their day in this window right now. I'm sure most of you are familiar by now of the Harmony sidebar. So on the sidebar, you see here, it's a window that appears directly in Outlook, so that you see all your locations in all your Microsoft 365 locations in one place. So what we're going to show you now is when the new version of Harmony 365, when you launch the app, when you launch Outlook, the sidebar comes up in a slightly new view. So what you have is you have a view not only of your SharePoint sites, but now you have a view of all your Microsoft 365 content sites. So you've got SharePoint, you've got Teams, all your team sites, you've got OneDrive, and we've also added recent items. So let's just look at these one by one. One of the other things that we've done is we've changed slightly the navigation, making this much easier for you to actually drill down on these sites to get to the location you want quickly. So for example, if I click on the SharePoint sites, I no longer have to double click to drill down. I can just click on the tree view and I can continue to drill down and get to locations that I want to get to. And of course, when I finally get to the last location, I can display the information very much like you're familiar with in the past. So this is one way to get to information and find the information quickly. And as you can see, we've incorporated a lot of the navigation components to make it very simple for you to get to your location where your content might be, regardless of whether it's in SharePoint or in Teams. For example, the Teams works exactly the same way. Most of you probably know that the location of files in Teams is actually stored in SharePoint, and you can get to those locations directly from the Harmony sidebar as well. So you can drill down and find the information that's stored in those locations directly from here. The next thing is favorites. So we've changed a little bit the favorites so you can have them right here in the tree, so you can navigate to things very quickly. It's much easier to get to them directly from here. So favorite locations, and I'll show you that in just a moment, how we use that. One other thing that we've added here is recent items. So this is a really popular feature and a highly requested one from customers. And what this allows you to do is to see recent locations and also recent items, so that you can open these items. You can open these items, double click on them and get to them very quickly, open them in context without having to navigate around to see those. So that's the navigation part. So one of the things I'd like to show you is how you can use this. So for example, favorites, and if I want to have an email, I can literally just drag it across into a favorite location, and it tells me, if Harmony tells me I already have that message in that place, but it'll upload it because I decided to duplicate it anyhow, and that information gets updated and put into that location directly without having to navigate and find that spot. And that's a really great feature to be able to find that. So recent locations and favorites, new easy ways to find things and get things to them easily. The other thing I'd like to show you is another nice feature we have is the ability to do really nice sharing now. So for example, if I want to share this file with somebody. We've incorporated the capabilities, the modern share capabilities of SharePoint directly into the sidebar. So for example, if this document is, I want to share it with somebody who may not have implicit access to it, I simply right click, do share, and now I get all the capabilities that are provided according to the policies of the company. So what we're doing here is there's no additional setup that's required or provisioning to enable this. This is we're reading the SharePoint uh, uh, permissions that you already have, and those are just surfaced here so people can take advantage of it. So in some companies, for example, you may not be able to share this with everybody, only with specific people or only people within the same domain. You may be able to, you want to set up a password or block people from downloading it or allow people not to, prevent people from editing. All these things uh, uh, are provided directly in the in this share, so it's very robust. And if I say I want to specify who I want to share this with, so I'm going to share this with my colleague Neil, my friend Neil, and I can type a message, and then I can just share that document with Fred and done directly from here. So it's a super capability. Again, if we're going back to working at home, working from remote, getting people access to the things that they need very quickly. It's just super simple. You're in email. Somebody asks you for a access to a document that you're working on. One right click on the document, boom, they've got the access to it. It's all secure. It's all according to the SharePoint policies, the Microsoft 360 policies that are in place in your organization. And that's all surfaced up through Harmony. Again, there's no setup required. If you make changes to that, we always have the latest and greatest permissions, so we're just surfacing that information directly from there. Another thing that is provided is for those folks who are interested in records and compliance. So what we've added is the ability um, we've had retention labels for a while, but now if you can create a record label directly from the sidebar, and now you'll see the lock symbol directly on the device, on the app, document itself, so that you can see that it's already declared a record. All the requirements and features and capabilities that are provided with Microsoft Record Management are applied directly, and that document has now been defined as a record directly from the sidebar. So that's another great feature. One of the other things that we've been asked to do is in companies, organizations that have places where you have a lot of sites and you want to be able to make it easy for people to find the information, get to places quickly. You notice that there's a gear right next to the top where it says SharePoint sites, and if I click on that, what I get is I can get a list of all those locations that I have access to, and if I want to add those to the sidebar, it's very simple. I can just say click on it and add that directly to the sidebar. So I can then have access to that and work directly from it. You see accounts here. The same, of course, works for favorites. I can add new favorites directly from here. And the teams capability, very similar. So I can add the new team sites so that they appear in the tree. Of course, I can, if I have too many and I don't work with those sites anymore, you can also delete those from the same user experience so that you can get to that, reduce the clutter that you have without having to toggle through too many different sites. And of course, one of the things I didn't mention was OneDrive. So another component, another document content repository, which is very popular and very central to Microsoft 365, is OneDrive. And one of the things that we've added is a particular view that is shared with me. So I have a list of all those documents as we did the sharing. You can you have a list of very easily have a view that presents all the information that is specifically shared by me and shared with me and who shared it. So not only do you have the view of being able to share with other people, but you also have the ability of a nice view to be able to see the information as shared, what things are specifically shared with you, so you can get to that very quickly. So this is really great in terms of navigation and being able to find information, being able to get to things quickly, be able to traverse the tree. But one of the big things and one of the huge new capabilities that we've added is we're continually enhancing and adding capabilities to the search. So let's go back up to the top here. I'm going to go to the Ravenwood site. And one of the things that we have is, of course, a great search capability. You see that you can search by just free text. So if I just start test, I can find all the things that with test in it. But you can also, I can also select, I can also pick the scope. So if I'm only looking in the current site, then I can reduce that and find things that are just relevant. So a lot of times, let me just drill down here so we can maybe just look at construction projects. So you can see, get an idea, and I'm just looking in the legal docs folder. And now I want to do the same thing. I want to search for test, but now you'll see that I have the ability of in a library. So it'll ask me the library, the current site, the current location. By setting the search scope, one of the always problems with search is that if you do a broad search, you get too many results. You can't find what you're looking for. You do a narrow search, you don't find any results. So we make it very simple now to be able to set the search scope and then to see the results that you want to get. Now, a lot of times, even here, you see there's a lot of results. So we want to be able to refine the search and make it very simple to find things. So there's a couple ways to do this. One is you see at the top of this, the bar here. If I right click on this, I can do a filter by app. So I can show all the documents that are either just SharePoint or let's just pick Teams now. And you can see I can filter out all the other documents and just focus on team sites. And of course, this is something which, I can, it's multiple select, so it's really easy to find that. Similarly, you can filter by the type of, let's just find all the PowerPoints, and you can of course use multiple filters at the same time to be able to get to things very quickly, just being able to just search different values here. So search is really popular as we talk about multiple apps in Microsoft 365 and having multiple places to put documents. Having one central place where you can do a search across SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, and then be able to filter and, of course, be able to not only filter but also sort the information. It all makes it very simple to get to things very quickly. One of the other great new search capabilities that we've added is the ability to search by metadata. So let's go back to here for a moment. So if I want to search by metadata, so one of the things we're looking for is if I'm looking for an email, one of the things that we were very strong on is being able to store emails in SharePoint or in Teams, and now to be able to find that information automatically by capturing the header information as SharePoint metadata, and then being able to search on that. So if I'm looking for things that were sent to Fred, didn't get anything here, so maybe I didn't send anything from Fred. Let's try from Fred. No, didn't get anything here either. So I guess I didn't send anything to Fred, but you can search by to and from. One of the other things that's just really great is also now to be able to search by enterprise keywords. So we have one of the keywords here is management that we internally have, and then I can find information. So I can search by keywords. It's super, super convenient because now you get the advantages of using metadata to be able to find information quickly. You can actually search on it and get there very quickly. So you can also do things like other things like we have some managed metadata names like client name. So I think we have client name KPMG. So now I can search on that and also use the same kind of results, same kind of filtering, same kind of sorting. I can get to information very quickly using all the metadata. And this is really powerful. Again, thinking about the person who's sitting at home or sitting in a satellite office or maybe sitting in the corporate office by themselves, and they can't ask somebody where this document is. All these new tools, getting information across our Microsoft 365 content repositories is super useful for making it easy and convenient for people to stay connected to the business and be productive. And of course, all the usual things that we've had forever is like versioning, so you can make sure that you're working on the latest version of the document. If you drag a document in to SharePoint, it'll version the document so you can have a history. And this is, of course, things like um, looking at these things. These are features that we've had, so you can also look at the version history. I don't know if this only has one version, but you can, of course, work with old versions and see where you are, who's made changes, and so on. All the surfacing the great features that are provided through SharePoint and Microsoft 365. Maybe briefly, I also want to show we have the ability also to, let's go back to our locations, the same type of capabilities that we have for SharePoint, being able to drag and drop, also exists for Teams. So if I want to drag an email across and put it in a file location in a Teams channel, so this is a team, the accounts team, and a Glory team. They're different accounts, and one of the accounts is a company called Glory Inc. I can literally drag the email and the attachments. Again, this is already exists, so I'm just going to say yes, add it as a new version, and it will drag it over into that location. And now I have a view in Outlook directly here of my documents. And of course, now you can also, one of the things we have with Teams is when you drag it in, you can also start a conversation. So you can say, hi, instead of Glory, I'm going to tell my old good Fred, he's always good. I can say, I want to send this email, take a look, and then post it. And not only does it put the email and the document into the Teams file location, but I can also continue that conversation in Teams directly. So I'm just going to bring this over here. Whoops. Yeah. So I can open that location directly in Teams and continue the conversation. And of course, drill down in this folder to see all the files. So I can just see the files that have just been added here. These are the ones that are just dragged in, and they're available. And I can work with these files just as if they were regular SharePoint files. And this becomes really critical when working with things like working with customers. And we'll look a little bit about that as we talk about the next piece of some new things that we have in our email teammate app. But before we get to that, I'd just like to wrap up this section by just summarizing again briefly some of the new capabilities that are in this Microsoft 365, which I'm showing here, this product, abilities to work across different apps in Microsoft 365, different content repositories, and see them as one, search across them, upload documents, share documents with colleagues, really work with the entire Microsoft 365 content repository set as a single location, a single place in one area. And that just makes the whole difference of making the user experience so much simpler for people who are struggling to find out where that information might be dispersed across different locations. So with that, I think we'll have some questions at the end if people have about Harmony 365. But as we introduce Teams here as a place where people are spending more time, and we're making it easy now to get information into from Outlook into Teams, I'd like to maybe take a moment here to stop and do a poll question, get some feedback from the participants about where folks are in terms of some of the Teams capabilities. I'm going to turn it back over to Maya.
Hi. Do you have a need to add emails to Teams conversations? For example, when working with customers, please select one. Every day, once a week, once a month, once in a blue moon, or never. I'll share the results in a second. I see that you are still answering.
The tension is palpable. What are the results going to be, Maya? Make sure you key in your answer information accurately. We don't want any mistakes here. Okay, so we've got, let's see, make this a bit bigger. So once a week, 24%, every day, 16%, once a month, 11%. So we've got about, you kind of, I would say every day and once a week regularly, we've got about 40%. Then once a month, once in a blue moon, about another 40 plus percent, and then maybe about close to 20% say never. Which I think is an indication of where we are in the life cycle of using Teams. Right now, as we know from past webinars and from experience working with customers, even looking at industry results, we see that the vast majority of customers are using Teams for meetings, all sorts of meetings, whether it's video or audio conferencing. And that is the one that people are spending a lot of their time in. Chat is starting to come in, but chat is a little bit at this point still competing a bit with email. People are still rooted in email and do a lot of their work in email. But one of the things that we found is a very big market driver, and maybe this is something that some of you folks may not have considered yet, is when you're working with customers or clients, that information will continue to work primarily through email for the foreseeable future and even beyond. Because when you work in email, email is a universal standard, which Teams is still not. And it allows you, when you send information back and forth, each party that participates in the email maintains a permanent record of that conversation. And if you work in Teams, and although Teams does allow you to include partners or clients and so on to join a team as a guest, when you those people are still as termed guests, and they don't have the same capabilities. There is something coming from Microsoft called Teams Connect, which promotes people from guests to a slightly higher level, but still the information that each party has is the Teams tenant, where the information the conversation takes place, is the place where the information is stored. And if the uh, relationship between the parties is severed, only one party retains the latest version of that information. So it's really important that email is going to continue to be the way that people work externally for most needs, particularly for things like contracts and proposals and documents of record, or even task management type operations where a client might be asking for help with something. So there really needs to be a way to get emails into team conversations quickly. Team conversations could be chat, it could be meeting conversations. And I'm going to just show you a sister product to the Harmony Outlook product I showed before, which is included if you have a Harmony One subscription. It's included, so it's not an extra cost. And it's available as a standalone product for $2.50 per user per month. And what it is, as you can see on my screen, I'm in a Teams conversation, and the example I have here is I'm Annie Tucker, and I'm a client manager. I'm working with one of my clients, and I just got a request from the client about a merger that they're working on. And I don't know the answer to the question. They're asking about some sort of tax implications that are going on, and I need help from my colleagues who are working internally in my company and on my team. So one way to do this, I could go to email and I could cut and paste it and bring it in, but I'm working in Teams, and in Teams, I want to stay focused on what I'm doing. I'm chatting with my colleagues as I'm here. So what we do is we have an app, a Teams app, which can be installed very simply. I'll show you in a moment how that's done. That resides, you see the email teammate icon under the text line. And when I click on that, what it does is it will actually launch a my inbox. So I can go to my inbox and see all the information. So right now I have it set to show only my read emails. I can search for it just like I could do search. Of course, is a great capability, as we saw before, to find information quickly. And if I just want to say this is the email that I want to share, I can now share that information. I can say I can read that email first just to make sure that that's what I want to share. I also have the unique capability, this is absolutely unique to what we do, is the ability to say, well, I don't want to include the PowerPoint, but I do want to include the market research and tax opinion letter draft, and I want to share that with the team so that we can get some input and some feedback on that. And now you see that that email appears directly in line in the conversation, and I can just say something like, hey team, especially Fred's my go-to guy, take a look and respond. And when I do that, it becomes part of the conversation. And you can see now that I can see the entire email, but also I can see the whole email here. And my colleagues now also have the ability to reply. So one of the things that Fred, who sees this, when he sees this in his feed, he can click on the reply or the reply all button, and what it does is it opens up an email window, a web version of Outlook in Fred's account, and Fred can then answer that directly without leaving Teams. And the whole concept here, again, remember, if we go back to the two main tasks or the main challenges that people have is staying connected to the business, which means how do I find information quickly, but also how do I get help from colleagues? I'm working at home, I'm working in the corporate office by myself, I'm working perhaps at a regional or a satellite office when nobody's there that day. Here's a way to reach out to people in the context of the conversation that we're having in Teams. I can spend more times in Teams, less time toggling back and forth between Outlook and Teams, and focus on the task at hand just to get work done. And the great news is that this product is included in your Harmony subscription. So those folks who are on the call and are existing Harmony customers, you can get this. The way you get this is very simple. You can either go to the side over here and find an app, and you see the email teammate app, which you can then add to directly, and it just appears. What you'll get when you do this is you'll get a free version of the app. So if you want to just try this out, if you're not an existing Harmony customer, you can get 10 free shares. You can share the emails, learn the experience, and then be able to directly upgrade and get the paid version from the Microsoft App Source. For those of you who are existing Harmony customers and want to get the Enterprise Edition, the installation is done the same way. You can get from the download area, the Harmony download area for existing customers. You can go there and request a coupon, which will then open up your account and remove the free version so that your existing users in your company can get the full access to the full email teammate product. And I think that's pretty much wraps it up for the demo of this. I just want to do maybe as I mentioned, just one final piece of the if you email teammate is included with Harmony One subscribers, $250 per user per month if you're just as a standalone product, and you can get that from the store. The Harmony 365 product will be available for GA in May. For those of you who want to get try it out now and get your hands on it, we'd be happy to make it available and to get your feedback on the product. And we'll just give you the ability to do that in just one moment. But just to wrap up, we covered a lot of things and showed a lot of different features. Really, the whole concept of Harmony 365 and Email Teammate is to support the hybrid worker who's working from home, who's working from different offices. Again, partially working with people, partially working on their own, but being able to find information quickly across all the Microsoft 365 content repository apps, as well as be able to stay in Teams, focus on Teams, and be able to focus on work rather than toggling back and forth between Teams and email. So with that, I'd like to turn over to Maya for the last poll question.
Okay, so the poll is already on, and I see that almost everybody answered. So I will close it, and we can move to the Q&A session.
Okay.
Okay, we have many questions today. Okay, let's start. When sharing a document, can this also be done if that person does not have access to the team or channel?
So the answer is it depends on the what your organization policy is. If your organization's policy is to allow that, then it is possible. If your organization's policy is not to allow that, yeah, it is not possible. What we're doing is making requests directly to share, and all the security and compliance governance policies that are in place in your organization are supported. So again, no particular setup. Whatever is supported and provided in your organization is what we provide. There are organizations that do allow selective sharing of information, even if somebody does not have access to the entire location. Other organizations don't allow that. Some only allow people inside the company, the ability to edit, ability to download, those kind of things. Those are all parameters that are set up at the SharePoint policy level in the company.
Okay, thanks. Will the rest of the channel content be non-visible to that person? It's to
Yes,
continue the first question.
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I see that the product is called Harmony 365. Is this only available for people using Office 365? Will it still be okay for people who are working on SharePoint on-premise?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, I didn't mention that as along the way. So, thank you for asking that. Much of what you see here, of course, we have still have customers who are on-prem, and of course, this works on-prem as well as for Harmony 365. So you will see, for example, the new use, the new navigation tree, the new icons, all those capabilities are you will see working on-prem. Things that are very specific to Microsoft 365 that are only provided within Microsoft 365 will not be available as features. So for example, some of the if the share capabilities, some of the search capabilities, any of these things that are not provided are just not available in the product. But the product works out of the box with on-prem, and you do get a lot of new value with that as well. So I think I encourage everyone, even if you're working on-prem, to upgrade. You'll see a big improvement in terms of the user experience and what you're able to do. But thank you for asking that question.
Okay, thank you, David. Does Harmony Search look in Outlook as well as SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive?
Does the again, Maya?
Does the search also in the Outlook, in your inbox, I guess, or only
Yeah.
in on SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive?
Yeah, so the search searches in those in SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive. It will search the emails that you've stored in one of those locations, but the search does not search your inbox. It does not search that at this point.
Okay, thank you. Does the use of Harmony affect the use of resources on servers?
Does the use of Harmony affect the use of
Affect the
resources on servers? Well, I do, the idea of Harmony Outlook is a client-based product. So the product is located on it's installed on the in the Harmony Outlook client, and the calls that are being made from the client are individual calls made from that particular client. So if you want to share something, the product Harmony is making a call to the server to share that, but it does not weigh down the server. There's no server component that's being weighed down by using these capabilities. Hope that answers that question.
Okay, thank you. And we have time for one last question. When sharing items in a library, does it also provide the user with permissions, or does the user need to have permission set up in order for them to actually see the document?
Once again?
Does the sharing give the user the permissions for the document, or does the user need to have permission set up in order for them to actually see the document?
So I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but if you see the location, locations that you don't have access to, you won't see. And once you
No, I
drag
think that
something,
the question is about sharing. If I share a document with someone, does that
and
give him permission for seeing the document?
so again, there's what you give permission for is viewing. So one of the share capabilities that I showed in the screen is the ability to view. You can have view only. You can prevent people from downloading. You can prevent people from editing. Those are capabilities that are SharePoint capabilities that we're surfacing in that user experience. So the answer is yes, you can. If you do share the document, they have access, a minimal access to view, and you can again, depending on the policy of your company, either increase those capabilities beyond just viewing or just allow them to view it. A lot of that has to do with, again, with corporate policy. We support whatever SharePoint enables people to do when they're sharing.
Thank you, David. Thank you for a great presentation, and thank all of you for joining us today. You will receive an email with a link to view this webinar again within a couple of days. And we look forward to meeting you again at our next webinar.